Hey everyone, John Lorden here. I know you're probably wondering, hey, where's our episode of Johnny Vlogs today? We're going to do things a little bit backwards this week. Today we have a BrainScratch Searchlight update. It's a really unique opportunity, and I just wanted to get this out there as quickly as possible. So that is happening today. Tomorrow we will have an episode of Johnny Vlogs. I don't think you want to miss it. I'm trying to line up a very special guest, and we're going to be making an announcement. So if you can be there, I think you're going to want to check that out. Today we are retouching on the case of Martin Nance, also known as Marty. And if you remember that episode from a few weeks ago, you'll remember that Lisa, his sister, has been working really hard to get information out there. And I had a lot of questions that I asked Lisa kind of through that video. And we are fortunate now that Lisa has actually joined us via Skype, and she is with us right now. And here she is. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I know this is a really tough thing to deal with. I talk to a lot of family members that have missing loved ones, and it is, I think, one of the toughest things that can happen to a person in their lifetime. Some people say it's even tougher than actually losing the person, just, having them pass away, because you just don't know what's going on. So just know that my heart, and I know a lot of the viewers out there, are with you, and we want to do anything we can to try to help you. And that's part of why I covered this case originally, was just there was some media on it, but there's really not a whole lot of detail out there. And I just wanted to see if we could potentially have you come on and help us understand it better. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I also want to give a very big thank you to all of the brain scratchers out there that watched that episode. I asked you to put your questions down in the comments. I went through all the comments before this interview. A lot of these questions came from you guys, and I really appreciate you giving it that type of thought and helping us with this interview as well. So thank you to the brain scratchers out there, and for sharing the video. I was really moved at how many messages I saw about you sharing the video in that area. Can you tell us a little bit about Marty, just in terms of his interests and hobbies? We really don't know a whole lot about him.
Sure. Marty was, he loves to work on cars. That was a passion of his since he was a teenager. He likes old cars and would work on any number of old cars over the years. Just projects. He had friends that he had developed in little car communities, and they would get together and work on their cars. And his favorite kind of car was a 64 Mercury Marauder, and he's owned a few of those over the years, and always had a project going on. It was either a car, or one time he was working on a truck. He even had an old Woody station wagon. So always working on a project like that. That was one of his passions. He loved to do that kind of stuff. I'm thinking of the other hobbies he might have had. He was always doing a house project, or he liked to ride his bike. Sometimes he'd ride his bike out to the air base from his house. But mostly it was the car thing. He really, that was his passion.
And he was certainly,
he was a kid.
He was mechanically inclined, I think is the best way to say it, which kind of led into his career as well.
Yeah, even as a child, as a young kid, he used to make model airplanes, and his bedroom, when we were growing up, would be filled with, the ceiling had model airplanes hanging all over the place that he would tack up on fishing line, and he would build those, and then he would also build model cars, and just had hours and hours of time doing that. And then it progressed into being a teenager when he could own a car to working on old cars. So he had one car in college that a lot of his friends remember, and it was called the Land Shark. He had taken an old car and put fins on the back of it, and then painted the the face of a shark on the front panels of it, and drove around Corvallis because he was at OSU at the time, and he drove around Corvallis, and everybody knew the land shark.
Wow.
So that was, his little funny thing.
Yeah, that's pretty neat too, because I know some airplanes actually get painting like that. Some military planes as well.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yep.
Are you his only sibling?
Yeah, we have a stepsister, but I'm and she's a little bit younger than we are, but I'm the older sister. I'm 2 years older than he is.
Gotcha. And does he have any children or?
No, he had never been married. When he worked at the air base for 30 years on the swing shift. And so that meant he worked from 2:30 till 11 o'clock.
Wow.
So I always figured that's probably why he had never gotten married or had any kids.
Yeah, that's probably a good assessment.
Kind of hard to have a relationship if you're working when somebody's at home. So
yeah, absolutely. Did he have a relationship at all when he went missing?
No. There was nobody that we know of currently. No, I don't believe that there was anybody in his life.
Okay. And do you live near him? I kind of get the sense that you might not live so close to where he was.
Well, I live a little bit outside of Portland. He lives in Portland proper.
Okay.
And I live, 30 minutes away. So
Gotcha.
it's not terribly far, but it's I've always kind of lived 30 minutes away for the last 20 years since I've been married. So
Yeah. So no relationship. What was his living arrangement like? Did he live in a home or did he have an apartment or?
Yeah, right now, a few years ago, he sold his house and he moved in with a friend of his that is in the car club.
Okay.
And so he moved into their house. He's renting a room in their house.
Okay.
So that's what he's been doing for the last year and a half or so.
That's kind of interesting. So do they have any details in terms of when he disappeared, like possibly what clothes he was wearing that last day?
Well, actually, his friend has a surveillance camera at his house, and so he rewound the tape that day just to see, if Marty may have put a bag in his car or that something like that. But when he left, the last time he left the house, it was just a normal day. Marty didn't take anything with him, and he just left as he normally would to go drive for Lyft. He was doing a lot of driving for Lyft in the evenings. He would leave probably around 6 o'clock or so, and then drive until middle of the night before he'd come home. He's always been a night owl, so that wasn't unusual for him to come home at 3 a.m. after driving, and doing the bar routes.
Kind of keeping the same hours that he was keeping in his career as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you see that footage?
No, I never saw the footage, but his roommate rewound the tape and watched everything because his roommate is just very upset about the whole thing and doesn't understand because there was no indication to him either that there was anything wrong or that anything weird was going on. So it was just looks like a normal day. Do
you know if that tape was from the last day, from the Saturday where he went missing?
No, actually, that tape was from Friday because he didn't come home Friday night. He said he was out driving Friday night and that he had messed up on which weekend the guard drill was. So on Saturday, he had gotten a motel, and I always thought, well, that was kind of a little bit weird, but maybe, Dan's got a family and maybe he just wanted some sleep, so get a motel and get a nice day of sleep. And he said that he had mistaken the weekend for the guard drill, that he thought it was the following weekend. So the tape was from Friday evening. The 4th, I believe that was, or the 5th, whatever that Friday was.
So he doesn't come home Friday night, but the hotel that he gets isn't for sleeping in Friday night. It's for Saturday night. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. He checked into the motel on Saturday morning.
About what? Do you know what time?
About 9:30. About 9:30.
Okay.
And then he was gone from the motel on Sunday when they went to clean the room. So we don't know what time he left.
Was there any surveillance video from the hotel?
There was surveillance of him coming into the motel and being in the motel lobby, so they know that he was there.
Okay.
And then I do have a little bit more of a timeline. I was able to get into his phone account online. I'm still unable to get into his cell phone, but I was able to get into the phone account online, and I know now that from the timeline that he was with his car and his phone up until 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Oh,
because
really?
there was a text message that came in to his phone on Sunday morning at 7 a.m., but it wasn't returned. The text was not returned, and that was somebody from the airbase wondering where he was.
Well, and this is a bit different than the information we heard. If I recall correctly, I think we heard that his last point of contact was somewhere around 11 on Saturday or something like that. But now we're hearing.
No, so I spoke to him Saturday afternoon around 3:00.
Okay.
And then his roommate spoke to him around 5:00 that evening. So it was Sunday morning. Then he received that text message and then never returned that text. And then the phone was shut off because there's no other activity on the phone after that. So I know that sometime Sunday morning, the phone was shut off and his car was abandoned.
And the phone's left in the car.
Right. And the phone was on the floorboard of the driver's seat, on the floorboard of the driver's side of the car.
Very, very strange.
Yeah. Very strange.
Was there anything else that was found in the car?
A couple of food wrappers, an empty Coke bottle, which he drinks Coke, an empty chocolate milk bottle, one of those little Nesquik or whatever chocolate milk bottles,
Sure.
and an empty wrapper for a cookie, a mother's cookie, empty wrapper, and that was those three things were on the floorboard of the passenger seat, and the phone charger was in the car. And a pen was on the console. So it was in a spot where I went back and actually just looked at those pictures again because I took pictures of everything before we touched anything.
Excellent.
And I went back and looked, and I thought, well, that pen is sitting in a spot that you wouldn't have been able to drive without the pen falling on the floor.
Okay.
So it's something where he must have written something down and onto a piece of paper or whatever. So I don't know what he was writing down, but just by where the pen was set, that would have happened after he parked the car.
Is it your opinion that the amount of kind of food wrappers and stuff that you saw in there coincided with him being alone, or did it seem like there might have been two people in there?
That seems like that would be something that he would eat.
Okay.
By himself, yeah. There was just those three things.
And when he's driving for Lyft, I would imagine he's probably concerned about the cleanliness of his car, and he's not going to have those types of items just thrown on the ground
Correct.
over there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know when he was last driving for Lyft?
Yeah, that's a strange thing. I can't get detailed records from Lyft without having a subpoena.
Right.
But we did find out that the last time so there's a few strange things that we just haven't figured out. So the last time he actually drove for Lyft was Thursday night.
Okay.
So and he logged out at 11 p.m. on Thursday night, which is early.
Did he happen to also drive for Uber? I know sometimes they drive for both.
No, I think at one time he was going to try and do both, but he didn't like Uber. Okay. I guess he didn't like the way it was set up or something, so he was purely Lyft. And the lighted sign was in the car, so that's he had that in there as well. But otherwise, there was nothing else in the car. It was totally clean.
Okay. Wow. So this actually gets a little stranger. If he's last working on Thursday,
right?
He's not driving at least for Lyft on Friday, but
I know.
he's out all night.
He's gone.
Yeah,
right. He's gone.
Like he is working, or maybe
Right.
doing something else. I mean, maybe he's
Right.
meeting up with someone or going out for the night, hanging out or something like that, but we don't know what it is. He doesn't
Yeah.
come home that night. Was it abnormal for him to not come home, or does his roommate kind of expect that from time to time?
No, that was abnormal for him not to come home.
Okay.
He was usually there. He and his roommate had a routine. Marty would be home early hours of the morning, and his roommate would get up to get ready for work very early in the morning, and the two of them would kind of cross paths and sit and talk for a few minutes, watch a little TV,
Right.
and then the roommate went to work, and Marty likely went to bed. He normally, slept until 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then he got up for his day.
Okay. So I know we've talked about a couple different cameras now. Did we get any clothing description on him, at least from the motel?
Yeah. So, and like we thought he had, he has a Carhartt jacket, one of the heavier versions of the Carhartt jacket.
Okay.
And he was wearing jeans. I think it was a dark Carhartt jacket and jeans, and he he liked Romeo brand shoes.
Okay.
Apparently that's what all of his and now that I just didn't know what the brand name was, but yeah, those are the kind of shoes he always wore.
Okay. Anything for t-shirt? Do we know?
Don't know about a t-shirt. He did have a baseball cap on
Okay.
at the time.
Any particular team or logo?
I'm thinking that the baseball cap he didn't wear a lot of baseball caps, and so I think this one was probably his 142nd Fighter Wing baseball cap.
Okay. Okay.
From
Gotcha.
the base. That's the one I usually saw him wearing if he was going to wear one.
Okay.
And he had a goatee, and that was silver,
Right.
silver hair, and he was very fastidious about shaving his head.
Mhm.
He didn't like the little scruffies growing. They itched apparently. So, and if he could grow hair, it would only grow around his ears, the side of his head. He couldn't. He was bald on top.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Now, I know one thing that came up in the last video, and I think you can help us clear up. Was it his personal car that was found, or was it a rental car?
No, it was a rental car. So Lyft allows you to drive your own car as long as they're 10 years old or younger.
Right.
And so in January, his car turned 11.
Oh.
And so I think he was trying to figure out what to do. He was going to have to sell his car or do something. And so Lyft through Hertz rental, if you do 20 trips a week,
Right.
20 pickups a week, they let you rent a car for, I don't know, it's a cheap amount per week. So he had started doing that at the very end of December. So that was the rental car that he abandoned. He still had his personal car. His roommate's daughter was borrowing it for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
While her car was being fixed. So, but he could have gotten that car back easily. He could have just said, I need my car back. And they would have given the car back to him immediately. So that's also another puzzle, is if you're going to, as the police like to surmise that he just went off into the blue yonder, just, because you can, why wouldn't you take your car?
Right.
I don't know. It's just a very big puzzle to me.
Yeah, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And of course, his clothes are at home. His roommate didn't notice that anything was taken from the home?
No, everything is there as it was, even his toothbrush. He took nothing with him. His backpack's on the floor. So I've always maintained that if this was your plan to just disappear and, go, off wherever, then you might have taken a few things with you. And he took nothing, absolutely nothing with him. There's his razor, his belongings, toothbrush. Like I said, he's a guy who showers every day. It's not like he's some survivalist that doesn't care about that kind of thing. So that was really odd that he took nothing.
It sounds like he wasn't even prepared for his stay at the motel, possibly. Like that was a
Correct.
little bit.
He came with and the police could see on that video that he came with nothing.
Okay.
He didn't have any bags with him.
And obviously, no one was with him at that time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody was with him.
Did his roommate happen to mention anything about his emotional state? Was there anything that he was keyed into in terms of him acting differently or maybe having stress of some kind or going through something?
Marty was always a pretty private guy.
Yeah.
He he wasn't ever super talkative with anyone. That's just the way he's always been. It's not for lack of wanting to talk to anybody, but he's just always been a quiet guy. So I think he and his roommate, they would talk about, I don't know, TV shows or their cars, that kind of thing. But as
Right.
far as getting down and deep, about things that might have been troubling him, you probably wouldn't have gotten that from him very easily. I think Marty has always had the attitude of he's going to fix any situation that he may have gotten himself into.
Comes with the mindset. I totally
Right.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just his. I don't know. That's just the way he's always been. He's been very independent and doesn't like to ask for help if he needed help. It takes a lot for him to do that. And so his roommate didn't notice anything unusual.
Okay.
It just seemed like Marty was just Marty. And even he had a couple of favorite bars that he liked to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And one of which is where he parked 2 blocks away from this particular bar. And I couldn't figure out why wouldn't he have gone in
Right.
if he was parked 2 blocks away. But now I know, having seen that phone bill, that, it would have been too early in the morning. They wouldn't have opened until 10 o'clock. And if he was at his car, shut off his phone after 7, right, then they wouldn't have been open yet. But he was there, and he was at another restaurant a couple blocks away on January 1st and was in good spirits and was talking about his next guard drill that was coming up in where he was going to be going on deployment for 6 months and looking forward to it. He told both of the bartenders that he speaks to that he had relationships with them because he'd been going to these places for years. And they had both reported that he was in good spirits and seemed, normal, and was chatting with them and looking forward to, this future trip. So
Now, for him to do duty on that Sunday, which he was scheduled for, was there anything he would have needed from home, like a uniform?
right, he would have. Yes, he would have needed to get his fatigues. Yeah, he would have needed to have those. So something, I now believe that, something was in motion, right?
Yeah.
There was something that was going on,
Yeah.
whether it was by choice or not. Something was going on. I have no evidence to lead me one way or the other, right? Of whether it was by choice or by not,
Right.
I have no idea. But something, I believe, was already in motion, because he on Saturday knew that he had guard drill when they called him, right? And so for him not to show up again on Sunday, something was going on. I believe there was some kind of crisis that he wasn't comfortable telling anybody about.
Yeah. And that is a big question, a big open-ended question, and we don't have a whole lot of insight.
No.
Did he have any friends that he was close to that might have some little piece of this puzzle?
The base has done a really good job of interviewing everybody at the base, all of his friends, people who have known him for, all these years. And then they were also going to talk to some of his other friends who have been helping in the search, just like with his fraternity brothers, who would have, I don't know that they saw him real often in the winter, but they would have barbecues in the summer, or Marty used to host an annual barbecue at his house and project movies onto the side of his house, that kind of thing. So they've done a really good job of trying to interview people and just look for any thread that might, offer a clue, because they're just as concerned as we are about what might have happened to him.
Is that a formal inquiry? Is that like the military police or who?
I don't know if it's a formal inquiry or not. I know that the Air Base security team is doing some of this.
Okay.
But I don't know to what level this gets. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah. And
I'm just thankful for the help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had
Yeah.
some people asking about that, saying like,
Yeah.
can't you report him AWOL just so that they would investigate this, from their end as well?
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the level is of if it's an AWOL or not. I don't know.
Because he's in reserves.
He was in the reserves.
Yeah.
He wasn't out there on a day-to-day basis. He wasn't active duty, right? So I think there are some distinctions, but I'm not super familiar with that. So I leave that up to them, and if they're willing to help look and interview and any information that they get, they're passing along to Clackamas County Sheriff as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Where's his phone?
Right now, well, I have his phone, but right now I have there's a somebody I've been able to connect with who may have a way to get into the phone, but unfortunately he's having trouble because this phone has an Android 7 operating system, and apparently that's a new operating system, and there's not a lot of jailbreaks for it yet, as it were.
Gotcha.
So I guess there are new things that come out all the time, but nothing yet.
But you've found some information from his phone. Did you find a call log or something in a bill?
So what I was able to find, not from the physical phone itself, but from his carrier account.
Right.
I was able to get into that account on the computer, right, and get a detailed bill. Okay. So Clackamas County is also, I've given them a few months of that bill, and they were going to do a forensics to just kind of look for patterns or any numbers that repeat. Unfortunately, there are pages and pages and pages of phone numbers because of Lyft.
Oh, of course.
So it creates a gigantic, like one of the files is 17 pages long.
Wow.
Right. So there's a gazillion phone numbers in there because of Lyft.
What about for that specific weekend, though? Because we know he's not working from Thursday on.
Right. So they were going to look there, and from what I could see, there wasn't a whole lot of activity. That weekend. I could identify most of the phone numbers. It was, especially on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was family. It was, his friends. It was the base. What I would be more interested in knowing is probably what was going on in the 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
To this disappearance, to see if there was anything that was coming up, anybody he was talking to. So I'm waiting for the police to be able to. I think they're working on it, but as they explained, and which is, it's totally fair that if they have their investigators working on that, then that pulls them off, maybe a rape or a murder, right? So
yeah.
So I understand that, but at the same time, I also don't know if Marty's safe or not either.
It's really tough. We've actually had a police officer come on the channel and talk about that. And it is, they're just prioritizing constantly. And if they have a missing child, that's going to bump ahead of a missing adult. And
exactly.
It's, I imagine it's a very tough challenge for them to deal with. But also, it's really tough on the families to deal with too. This is your loved one that's missing, and you want to see some regular progress. Something that would be really interesting to have in this case, of course, would be the ping information from his cell phone, so we can kind of trace where he went. We have a bit of an idea. I'm kind of surprised to know about the motel, but it seems like he checks in, but he doesn't quite stay there.
Well, I'm guessing because when I talked to him on Saturday, he was sleepy sounding. So I'm guessing he probably was sleeping. He probably was tired, and so I don't know if he stayed there all night, or if he left, or.
But they would have probably key card information where they could see if his door was unlocked, so they could probably at least tell when he was coming in.
Yeah, and that reminds me, because at one point we were supposed to be able to get that information, and I'm thinking nobody followed up on that, because they had requested that information from the motel. Yeah. The police had, and so that's I'm glad you brought that up, because I will.
That's some follow up for sure.
I need to have them follow up on that and see if they ever got that information. Yeah.
Are you having any luck in trying to get the police to look at this in a bit more of a foul play scenario, at least with the time that has passed?
No.
Yeah.
No, they maintain that because there was nothing that they could see at the car, and because we were in contact with him on Saturday,
Right.
that that they think that he did this on his own, and that, of course, it's not illegal to disappear. So
Yes. Yeah, we hear that quite often on this channel.
right,
But of course,
yeah,
with a carjacking situation,
right,
there's not always going to be a ton of evidence, especially if there wasn't any
yes.
violence that happened in the actual vehicle. So
Well,
it's
and that's what I've tried to explain to them too. I say, you haven't been able to prove to me that he did this willingly and on his own either.
right.
So whereas I can't prove foul play, but they can't prove it wasn't foul play.
Yeah,
So just because there wasn't a broken window or blood doesn't mean that there wasn't trouble.
exactly.
So that's until somebody can show me that evidence, then and the fact that they did find out there's no credit card activity, so he's not spending, and he didn't have a lot of cash. I know he didn't.
Right.
So how do you survive with no car, no supplies, no cash? I mean, any cash that he would have had would have been gone by now.
Yeah.
So what happened to you? That's just the biggest mystery of all. And because this hasn't happened in his entire life. And besides, if he was going to disappear and plan this to just disappear, he's smart enough to know that if he did it on a base weekend, a drill weekend,
Yeah.
they would have been all over it immediately. So
Right.
why not leave on Monday then?
Right.
And then you could go undetected for several days, get a head start on wherever it is you're going to go, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's what just makes me think that something was going on, because of course the base is a safe place, the house where he was living is a safe place. I mean, the guy has, his roommate has surveillance cameras, so I just can't figure it out. It's just such a big mystery.
Now, the bar that the car was found close to,
Yeah.
we know that this is a bar that he would go to.
Yes.
Is it possible that he was there the night before and the car had just been left?
No, because they know him there.
Uh-huh.
They know him very well, and they did not see him. And my stepsister also used to work at that bar, and so she's still friends with them. And she went and sat and watched the videotape just to make sure
Okay.
that
Okay.
just to rule it out that he wasn't there. And so no, he hadn't been there since January 1st.
Now, it's a local neighborhood bar,
Right.
and we know that he frequents it. Is it possible that he might have known someone from there that lived nearby? Like, did it make any sense where his car was parked in terms of people he might have been connected to through the bar?
Not that we have been able to determine. I don't think that's the case. I think he, from all accounts, when he goes there, it's called Jake's Place, and when he goes there, he talks to kind of the same people. There are some bar regulars there, that kind of thing. But
Right.
I suppose some of them could live in the neighborhood. We canvassed that whole neighborhood 3 different times, and people knocked on doors. They, that very first day when we found the car, we went to all the houses in the area that could see the car, houses nearby, asking if they heard anything, saw anything, when did the car appear? And the house out in front of where the car was parked, she was gone Saturday night, but she said the car was there Sunday morning or Sunday when she got home. So that lines up with the phone call coming in, or the text coming in and going unanswered early that morning.
Got it. Do we know if he had more than one cell phone? Is it possible that he had another?
Well, he has an old one that I have that he had. So this phone he had gotten the end of November.
Okay.
The same number though. It's the same phone number, and the old phone the information was transferred over, and there's nothing on the old phone.
I just noticed sometimes with Lyft drivers, they'll have more than one phone, one for business and then another for personal or something like that. But it doesn't seem
and
like
as
that's
far
the
as I
case.
can tell, unless he had a different carrier, I don't believe he had another phone. I think his roommate thought that was his only phone as well.
Okay. Man, this is a really, really tough case.
Tell me about it. I know. It just swirls in the back of my head every day.
I'm sure.
What happened? How? What am I missing? What am I not thinking of? Right.
Yeah. Did he have a home PC?
He has a laptop, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was left behind?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yep. And apparently, according to his roommate, he wasn't on the laptop very often. And by where it was in his room, I could tell probably not. He would have had to be standing up to use it. So it's not like it was next to his chair, right? Where you might sit there and surf away. And
have you checked the internet history on it?
Yeah, there's not a ton of internet history. I took it to a guy who, because I didn't know the password, and he was able to get the password.
Yeah. And
he took a kind of a quick look at the hard drive, and he confirmed. He said, yeah, he didn't use this very much stuff. It was mostly to check banking accounts, that online statements. So all of his statements for any card accounts or whatever would come online.
Okay. This is kind of a weird question, but it's one we always have to ask. Did he have any known enemies or any recent conflicts that you were aware of?
None. Marty really was a creature of habit. He just had his routines, and as far as we know, I mean, he just didn't venture out of his lane. So it's unless he met somebody at a bar, right, that nobody knows about.
Right.
Everybody that he knows has been out looking for him.
Yeah.
So we don't know of any enemies, but, obviously there's a lot of things we don't know because he's gone.
Yeah,
so
there's definitely a story here. And
there's something that we don't know.
The way that he was acting is telling us. I mean, we know that he checked in himself to that motel.
Yes.
And we know that he didn't have his things for work the next day. So
correct.
He's clearly making his own decisions in some way.
Right.
But we don't know what's driving that or affecting that. It's a really tough place to be.
Right.
And you've never known him throughout his life to really have trouble with people or have any type of long-term conflict or anything like that?
No. Everybody loves Marty. Marty he's reliable. He's the first person you'd call if you needed help.
Yeah.
He's the first person who would go and help somebody. He's very likable. I've actually been so amazed at all the people that I had, who know Marty, who have been connecting through our Facebook page, and sending me messages, and how well liked he was, because I didn't know it. I knew about some of his friends, but I had no idea this whole network of people that just are really upset because they all agree this is not like Marty at all. We don't understand, and Marty's so nice. We can't, he's always, he's just a polite guy. He's Christmas Eve we had some bad weather here at our house. Mm-hmm. There was some snow coming down, and my whole family was at our house, and we have an aunt and uncle who live, I don't know, probably 15 miles from my house. And he left and he went ahead of everybody and went to go drive to their exit and drive up onto their exit. And then he made a phone call to me and he said, tell Aunt Louise that they'll be fine going home. Their exit is fine. So he's that kind of guy who was looking out for other people,
right.
Or he stayed with me for a few days after he got back from a deployment before he had gone to live with his friend. And I was at work and he cleans my gutters one day. just because he had time. So who cleans their gutters? That's the worst job in the world, right? And that's the kind of stuff Marty did. He was just nice.
Yeah.
So that's why it's just all the more bizarre.
Is there potentially any medical issues that he was facing?
Not unless there's something that I didn't know about. I think that if there were some serious medical issue, I would know. I don't know. Sometimes I think, well, maybe there was a mental break. Maybe there's something, maybe something snapped. Maybe he was under a lot of stress. I don't know.
Was losing his house was losing his house traumatic, or was it a decision that he made?
He chose to sell it. He chose to do that. He was going overseas for the first time, where he was going to be gone for, I don't know, 6 or 9 months. I can't remember how long they were gone. But he did have some debt, some credit card debt, and he just decided it was a good time to, do that and start fresh when he came back. And he didn't have to worry then about his mortgage while he was gone. And I didn't agree with the decision, but it was his choice.
Yeah.
So that was up to him to do that.
And as he's retiring, it kind of makes sense that, he might want to lean down or change his lifestyle in some way like that.
He might want to do something different. He had thought about, because at the point he had left the day-to-day job at the Guard, and he was thinking about what he wanted to do. Maybe he'd go to Seattle, get a job there. He has an engineering degree, and I think he had always kind of wanted to use that degree.
Yeah.
Or he had talked about looking at a job maybe at Boeing or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that would have required a move, and so that was his choice to do that.
Yeah. Now, a lot of times in these cases, we start hearing about sightings. Have you heard of any sightings of Marty yet?
So in the very beginning, we did have a couple of people who thought they saw him in the area.
Yeah.
And then, but that didn't pan out. That we couldn't ever confirm. After I watched a surveillance video at a restaurant that had a view of the highway where a lady thought she saw him, and I didn't, and I never saw him.
Wow.
And then we had possible sighting in Seattle. 2 Seattle policemen were in a coffee shop, and they thought that this guy who came up to them and started talking to them looked like him. And they had only known they flipped on their vest cameras, and they could record the conversation. And it took quite a while to get that video. I think I probably had to wait 10 days to get that video. But it turned out that it wasn't him. But one of the policemen had seen a digital billboard. And there are a couple of billboard companies here in Portland that have donated space, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And just so generous. And so apparently one of the billboards must be up in the Seattle area. So
there'd be no reason for him to go there, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have any family up there. Most of our family, we're concentrated here in the Oregon area.
Okay. Just to get it out there, who's the billboard companies that are donating?
Let's see. One of them is Lamar, and I want to tell you the other one, okay? Because I want to just look that up for you, because they have just been really, really, really great. Pacific Outdoor Advertising. So it's Lamar and Pacific Outdoor Advertising are the 2 billboard companies.
Well, I just wanted to take a moment and say that that's amazing. And I wish that a lot more companies would do that kind of thing. And I just wanted to point out that is really, really special that you guys are doing that. So thank you to both of those companies.
Yeah, it's absolutely so generous. And that was the idea of a fraternity brother's wife had some time, and she made the reach outs, and both companies said, absolutely, we would like to donate the space. So that has received so much attention around here. I hear from people all the time. I saw the billboard. So that's super helpful, because I think the more people that can see that kind of stuff, the better for if he's still in the area.
And what a good move by those cops to think to flip on their cameras and to get that to you. That whole mechanism is really interesting to me. And once again, just another great idea. I hope people are watching these videos and taking note of great ideas, because that was really awesome.
Yes, it was very really good thinking of them because otherwise we wouldn't have known for sure if it was him or not. And, unfortunately it wasn't, but it could have been.
Right. And what an upside to the whole body camera controversy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a great way of that. Yeah.
Where it can be used in a situation like this and be a good thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there any current searches or vigils being planned?
We don't. And, I have so many people that ask me if they can search or where would we go. And because we've searched the immediate area where, he lived for 20 years, that kind of thing. And we've searched the parks and we've searched down by the river. We've searched, just all over that we can think of, and passed out flyers in the area, and all the restaurants and the bars in his old neighborhood, they all know him because he lived there for 20 years.
Right.
And even, a few places nearby where he currently lives, they know him, but they hadn't seen him, So we have exhausted, I believe, without having something more to go on. Yeah, we've exhausted somewhere to search, and I would hate to waste people's time going over the same places. Yeah,
and I know that we're really pretty close to this. I mean, it's how long has it been since he disappeared now?
Since January 6th. So this Saturday will be 5 Saturdays.
Yeah. So we're not quite at the point where you might have a vigil or a balloon release or something like that, but keep those places in mind, places that were friendly with him.
Yes.
Those would be great places to let people know if you're going to have an event like that. Right. I think typically around 6 months or something like that is probably a good time to start thinking about doing those things. And keep in mind that those are excellent opportunities for getting media attention.
Yes.
News channels, radio stations, they love reporting on things like that. And this case needs all the exposure we can get. So, please keep that in mind.
Yeah, all I can think is somebody somewhere knows something, and I just don't see how you do this on your own with no way to get anywhere and nowhere to live.
No, and we know that there's people that at least have pieces of this puzzle, because it's a puzzle that's stretching over, probably 36 hours or so of that last day of what was he doing, where was he going, who was he interacting with. So people have the pieces, they probably just don't know where to put them. And sometimes an event like that might help.
Right. Exactly. And I don't know how he'd be communicating with anybody. He could, I suppose you could buy a burner phone.
Right.
And if I could identify more of his credit card accounts or anything like that, where I could find out what he may have been purchasing in that last week or so, that would be, I think, it could hold some clues as to what was going on. Yeah. But I can't get, unless I can break into it myself and figure out the account number. I can't access it without a subpoena. Yeah. So
no, I get it.
Yeah.
Are you considering doing any type of fundraising or anything like that, to like a GoFundMe, to possibly hire a private investigator?
I've thought about that, and there are a lot of people that want to contribute to that. I have talked to a private investigator who was highly recommended, and he's been very nice about just going through the different elements, and he was going to check on a couple things for me, but at this point, there's not a whole lot that he would be doing now that the police aren't doing.
Sure.
And I suppose, he might be able to go and find people who may know him, like at at Jake's place at the bar,
Right.
that who maybe wouldn't want to talk to police.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, Marty was fairly quiet and just didn't he wasn't super chatty. He went in, he played darts, he played some video poker, he played pool, and would talk to the bartender that he had known for he knows a few of them, but he'd been going there for 20 years. So
Right. I also just wanted to check in and ask, how is your family holding up through all this? You have children, if I recall correctly?
yeah, I have 2 college-age boys, and they're doing okay. They're concentrating on their studies. They're away at school.
Yeah.
And but I have a large family who's here, and we just every day wake up and pray that there will be some clue, something that will happen, because of course everybody is just so worried about this, and it's a very surreal experience because it doesn't happen to our family. It happens to other people, and you think, well, while I may not have talked to Marty all the time, part of you can go back into this mode of thinking, well, it's just like any other day that you didn't really talk to Marty all the time. But then you realize, no, wait, but he's actually missing, and something happened, because he doesn't just go missing. So that's what the worry is that none of us know what happened. And so, it's stressful, because I have aunts and uncles and my dad, and they're all elderly, and it just puts extra stress on their lives that it's hard to deal with, I think, sometimes.
Absolutely. It touches a lot of people.
Right. And it just seems like, and it's something that, knowing how much Marty cared for everybody, it's so strange that if he has done this by choice, it just tells me even more that there was some kind of crisis, because I don't think he would purposely want to worry people.
Yeah.
And if he had just wanted to go away for a while, he could have just told me, I need to go away for a while.
Right.
And I may have tried to talk him out of it, right? But he could have done that, and at least we would have known, right? The not knowing is the worst part, so that we know, do we need to be this worried or only somewhat worried? Right. So right now we're this worried, and all the late notices are coming for his bills, and I don't know what to do. We have a storage unit that belongs to him, so we're making the payment on that, so we don't have to move everything out of it right yet. But how long do you do that? It's a really strange situation to be in.
Yeah, I wish I had answers for you on that stuff. It is, it's kind of unique to each family and how they want to deal with that. And it's one of those things that you would never think of. You would never think of, oh my God, my brother's going to disappear, and a month later, we're going to have to figure out what to do with these expenses that are coming in and his stuff. And what if, his roommate wants the room back, and there's all these different aspects.
We did move. He didn't have a lot of stuff at the house, so we did take that out. I put the stuff in his storage unit. We did do that, and so that his roommate. But it all just feels very weird. It felt very weird for his roommate too, because it's as if it's as if he's dead or something when you do that kind of thing, because you just don't know. But then, it's not fair to just leave it in there when, he's not paying rent. Right. So his roommate would just love to have him come back. Right. And just would love to have him come walking up to the door and walk in and say, hey, sorry about that, but we don't know what's going on. So, it was a strange thing to have to pack up everything and, to give my DNA sample to the police in case they needed a DNA sample. I mean, it's all very odd. It's just a very, very odd feeling. Yeah. And I can't do anything with his car because it's his car. I don't know. Should I sell it? Do I keep it? But I can't even sell it because it's his car. Right. So there are just things that I just don't even know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best in handling all of that. And there was
Thank
another
you.
way that I wanted to help, which was to at least get him into Namus.
Oh, right. Somebody mentioned that.
Yeah, I've come to really learn to appreciate the work that they do.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And I have already started the record. I started it
Oh,
earlier today. I have
wonderful.
a
Okay.
handful of questions that I need to ask
Sure.
you so I can
Okay.
finish it off and submit it. But
Okay.
it'll literally be posted probably 20 minutes after we end this video. So
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, we will now have him in Namus as well.
Okay.
And if you do get any type of fundraiser going
Uh-huh.
or events going around
Uh-huh.
this, please let me
Yeah,
know. We would
I will.
absolutely like to know about those things. I know
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'd personally donate to any efforts
Thank
to find
you.
him.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and outside of that, I know that I have viewers that would as well. So anything like
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
please let us
I
know.
will. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything you want to say before we go?
I really appreciate everybody who has been concerned about Marty. I think the concern is warranted because it is so out of character for him, and I appreciate everybody keeping their eye out. And for the people that put your video on his Facebook page, on the help find Marty Nance Facebook page, that was great because I had no idea that this existed. So. I got multiple people doing that, and I really appreciate people just looking out. And all I can say is if somebody somewhere knows something, get in contact with me or police because everybody's waiting to know what has happened or get a clue to help find him. So I really appreciate the help.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for being such an amazing example of what I consider a quarterback. I think every case needs
Yeah.
someone that's willing to work as hard as you obviously are in this case.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me that you can smile, how you can smile right now with what you're facing. And it really, it inspires us, and I know other people that are going through similar situations to see someone be so strong in all this. So just know how much we appreciate you in all this as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got it. Sit tight, and I'll be right back with you as soon as I'm
Okay.
done ending the show, and we'll finish up that Namus record.
All right. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thanks.
That is it, everyone. That is the interview with Lisa Veber, and this is just really another one of those cases I would love to see come to a quick solution, to a happy ending. If you have any information out there that you think can help with this case, please look in the description box below. I'm going to have contact information there where you can get that info to the right people that can act on it. If you don't have the right info and you have friends that live in Oregon, let's light up Oregon. Just let all your friends know about this video. Let them know that there's this awesome guy that's missing, and we're all wondering where he is, and he's got family that's really concerned. And I know he deserves to be found. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Come back tomorrow, and we'll have more on the Lord and Arch channel. We'll have your Johnny vlogs that was supposed to be here today. It'll be here tomorrow. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.